we'd like to welcome Dermot Sweeney, digitalization expert at FlowForma, and Susie Pinsett, director at Pinsett Bannister Consulting Partners. They'll be talking about how to build a successful process digitization roadmap with no code.
Yeah, hi everyone, and welcome to this PEX low-code event. Today we're going to discuss more about how to build a successful process digitalization roadmap with FlowForma. What we're going to now have a look at is a little bit of a top-level overview on what Forrester think of FlowForma. So, one of the interesting things is that I personally don't think that organizations should just digitalize for the sake of it because it's an interesting topic, right? I think it's more that it's more that you're digitizing to secure those outcomes and return on investment. And with this in mind, we want to share this advice from the analysts at Forrester who said, businesses must drive automation to levels that will stretch their creativity and staff. Efforts will pay off for those who will double down on automation to reach a competitive advantage. And that's really what automation delivers, is huge competitive advantage. So while you're listening today, I encourage you to think about the outcomes that you would want to realize for your business through automation. So moving on to the next slide. Before we get into the meat of our discussion today, I'd like to give you a little bit of an overview and insight into FlowForma. So our company was founded in 2012. We launched our digital process automation tool in 2013. We were quickly recognized for revolutionizing the business and process management space with our uniquely no-code tool and our mission to empower business people and IT to rapidly automate tasks and processes. We serve global customers, and our product is used across all sectors, including construction, engineering, healthcare, and automotive and manufacturing, and more other verticals as well. And I'll just mention a few really key important points about that. We are a no-code tool, and that's really one of our unique drivers. We empower citizen development. We're going to talk about that a little bit more in just a moment. So, as I mentioned there, we work with quite a range of customers across the globe: construction, healthcare, finance services, and we've helped these companies to digitize an array of processes right across their businesses, quite a diverse array. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by FlowForma advocate Susie Pinsett, who has worked with three of these customers: Cointford, Gallagher's, and PJ Hegarty's. Now, today, Susie will share how these construction companies have digitized manual processes and seen serious savings with FlowForma's no-code process automation tool. So, Susie, hi, how are you doing?
Hi, well done.
Well, look, what we're going to do today, Susie, we already know we're going to have a short interview, so we're going to get kicked off straight away. So Susie, you've supported construction companies such as Cointford, Gallagher, and PJ Hegarty on their digital transformation journeys.
Mm-hmm.
What have some of the common process challenges you've seen across these organizations, please?
I think the main challenges are manual data entry and siloed information. So a group of people will collect or do a process, and the information is not available to anybody else. So it can't be used to help them understand their business processes and things. So the second one is lack of time and technical expertise. Will stop people from digitizing because they're not quite sure that they can do it. But with low code, that's not a problem anymore. And then there's compliance and regulation challenges. And because unless you're digitized, the auditing of those processes and that compliance and regulatory challenges is difficult. And in some cases, almost impossible. And another one of the things I think that's quite important, especially now, is removing an organization from the hire and fire cycle caused by business process expansion and contraction. By digitizing, you're not as vulnerable to those expansion and contractions, because digitized processes scale without much effort. And of course, in the construction industry, we're suffering tremendous skills shortages. And digitization allows you to use your people that you already have to be more productive. And so you don't need to go out and search for those people to fill those positions when you've expanded. And of course, at the end of the day, resistance to change is always a difficult one. But once you've got on the road and everybody sees what it brings to them and the improvement in their jobs, that resistance drops away.
So that's kind of interesting. So a lot of the people will be listening and thinking, well, okay, I have a certain technical capability internally. Like, what would I need? What kind of technical resources would I need to get up and running with FlowForma and get started?
So the beginning, it depends which approach you want to make. Depending on the resources that you have, you can either upskill the ones you have, but that tends to deliver a slower delivery. And you can use sort of an acorn approach where you do, one or two processes and you get them implemented well, you demonstrate your value to your directors, and then you build on that slowly. So it starts small scale gradually. And then there's the other approach, which is if you can outsource to somebody to do it for you that has previous experience, or you may have internal experience that you can leverage. And then you can use a much more agile approach, which gives you a faster implementation time because you've built a team together. But it all depends on the resources you have and the speed at which you want to digitize. But either road, FlowForma can support either road, the slow and gradual with just a few internal resources, or you can go at it faster and get sort of 20 processes done really quite quickly and implemented. And you just have to package it up and make sure that you've got the right team involved to make sure you design your processes well.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because a lot of companies start with that smaller acorn approach, and it's a way to get started, get digitization, automation into the company, and then all sorts of ideas spring from there. Now, Susie, what motivated the companies that you worked with? What motivated these organizations to digitize, and were there any common requests that they were looking for in the process automation tool?
Because I have worked in construction, and that's where that my speciality really is. It's usually health and safety and quality driven, because that's where the bulk of their manual processes are. And compliance is a very important part of the requirement. And so those are the drivers, but every business usually has the sponsor who is going to drive your digitization journey forward. At Coinford and Hegarty's, it was health and safety.
Okay, and then beyond health and safety, I mean, do construction companies need other processes digitized, or is it just in that area?
Oh, absolutely. There's all the onboarding processes, so whether it be employee or subcontractor, and then there's the all the processes that manage defects, and anything that has a process can be digitized. And it's just a matter of people having the ideas to improve what they do on a day-to-day business day.
It's really interesting that you mentioned subcontractors there, because that probably people sitting in their offices right now would be thinking, well, how would I engage with somebody who's sitting outside of my organization?
It's very simple with FlowForma because they have a marvelous part of their software which is called Engage, where you can send part of the form outside your business to gather information from external people, and then that information can be brought in, and it means you don't have to double entry the data. The data's entered at source, and less likely to have re-entry errors, and you can also get sign-off and approval from external sources. For example, you may need a client approval of a quality process before you can go to the next stage, and you can use FlowForma to get that approval. And even if they don't approve it, they can bring back in a request for further information, and that conversation can happen, but all electronically and in a digitized format.
So it sounds like it speeds up that approval process, right?
Yes. And it's all in an environment they're familiar with. So it all arrives on email. You open up the form, you fill in the bits and submit it, and then the next person along the chain is notified.
Yeah, just on another point, just using mobile technology and so on, and harnessing the power of that, because all of the subcontractors and employees will typically have a cell phone, and there'll be tablets and so on site. You can also use a HR code, or sorry, a QR code as well, right, to initiate a process.
Yes, one of the processes we have, or in most construction companies have, was they need to do daily checks of equipment. And because a lot of construction uses CIS workers, so you may have a lot of people on site who are driving your equipment, but they do not have an email address for your organization. But you can put a sticker on the piece of equipment, they just scan it with any mobile device, and then they can complete the daily inspection and submit it. And then that's the inspection done. They don't have to do anything else. It's logged. Any defects can be sent off to whoever needs to deal with them. And it just speeds everything up. And it's that one-time entry of all that information. And then lots of people deal with that data where they need it. So can
Yeah,
respond.
so you're making things, it's obvious that you're making things much more efficient, and you're harnessing the technology that's already available, which is fantastic. So Susie, I suppose the next lead-on question from that would be, or just generally would be, how would you suggest organizations prioritize processes for digitization? How do they do that?
I think when they start out on the journey, because you have to remember at the end of the day, they want return on their investment.
Mhm.
So I'd always recommend you start off with those repetitive tasks that are rule-based, time-consuming, or error-prone. And that will give you that prime candidate that significantly saves you time, which gets you your ROI quickly. It keeps everybody who's interested in the bottom line happy. And then later on, you can carry on to the ones processes which are more complicated, and also that don't have such a high cost impact. And that's usually your compliance and regulatory reporting. But I would start off with your repetitive tasks, because you will improve your staff's productivity as well.
Yeah, so really would you be saying that sometimes people might think, well, look, I'll start with the most complex one because that's the big one. I'm going to get a big return on investment there. I'm going to start there. Is that the best approach?
No, I made that mistake. I started off the first process I ever digitized was something that was a big headache for us, but it was epically complex. And to get it absolutely right and how everybody wanted it took 2 or 3 months to get it absolutely perfect, where I should have started with some quicker wins. And then it also we've got everybody much more on board with it, rather than, come on, this is taking too long. But I learned a lot.
And what does so let's say you were starting with the process. People are now thinking, that are listening are thinking, well, how many steps are in the ideal process to start with? I mean, is it one step? Is it 10 steps?
Some will be 1, some will be 10. It all depends on what your requirement is. I mean, quite often the really good ones are the sort of the inspections. It's daily, it's quick, it's done. And that consistency of that reporting allows you that visibility to the data, which you wouldn't get with the paper forms. If everybody's filling in a different paper form, somebody's got to read all those paper forms to then find out where the defects are or what, all those sorts of things. But with a digitized system, no one needs to read anything. The system knows that you've selected defect, or there's something wrong with the equipment that you've just got into to drive. And somebody's told by an email as soon as you submit that document that needs repairing. And so it just transforms collaboration.
So FlowForma can surface up these challenges for people in an automated way where they get that notification after an issue has been raised or identified.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right, that's great. And Susie, just following on from our previous question, so can you share some of the benefits and results seen from Coinford and maybe others from digitizing their processes?
I think the main one that directors in particular like is the improved visibility due to real-time reporting. So they feel really involved in what's going on because they know what's happening when it happens. And they can have dashboards which give them information which is sometimes up to the minute. And so that makes them have the ability to, I suppose, make decisions driven by what's happening in the business at the time.
And that's kind of interesting. So you mentioned dashboards. Like, where do they see the dashboard?
You can have the dashboards pinned to your SharePoint sites, and you can use many reporting tools. FlowForma has an excellent one, which will, in a Power BI style, give you dashboard reporting. So you can choose what you want to report on, what data is important to you. You can slice it and dice it whichever way you want.
Yeah, so some perspective customers might think, well, I'm a Power BI power user. And I love Power BI. Can you still use Power BI with FlowForma?
Absolutely.
Okay.
You just attach it to whatever the data store that you're writing the data to. So that may be Azure or SharePoint lists.
And does that data come in, is it come in once a day, or is it immediate, or how does that work?
It's immediate. It's immediate. Okay. It's there, and it's fed into the lists whenever you require it to be updated from the form as it's running. So you can use the reporting to know exactly where a process is in its transit through to the end.
So overall, then, the directors are getting improved quality of information. It's real time. There's visibility on processes that were previously hidden, let's say, or no visibility on them, and that leads then to opportunities to identify things like growth and challenges within the business, right? Absolutely.
And of course, the improvement that is also given to you is the accuracy and the accountability of that data. And it won't allow you to go on until you've answered all the questions. So you can't just not fill the box in. It requires you to. So you're always collecting data that you need. So
yeah, that's interesting, Susie. So someone might at their office might be thinking, well, whenever someone completes a form, they always leave out that bit of information. I need to chase them up afterwards and get it. So can you actually request data to be completed mandatorily?
Absolutely. And I think it's quite important for you to get a proper view of your data, because if you've got data missing, it distorts your ability to report on it.
Well, that's good too, because what you're trying to do is pull together a single source of truth. Because if you can't trust the data, it's going to be difficult to rely on your dashboards and the information, right?
Absolutely. It keeps it all. It keeps its integrity.
Now, we mentioned, I just want to touch on this point because we mentioned SharePoint and Microsoft. FlowForma, it can only be installed on your. How is it installed and where is it installed, I guess?
It sits atop SharePoint and it interacts with all the SharePoint features. So you can dynamically file all the generated documents from FlowForma and you can dynamically file it to any SharePoint site on your domain.
Okay, great. Well, look, I think we're almost coming up to the fact the last stretch of our wonderful interview here. So finally, Susie, do you have any tips for our audience on how to get started with automating their processes?
Yes, your first start is clearly have your strategy set out with goals and objectives. That gives you the ability to know where you're going. Get a good team together that will help you through your project, and you can't do this on your own. You can't just say give it to one person and say well you do it. You need a team of people, a good team of people to drive it forward. And maybe and assess what your capabilities are. And so you may have sufficient capabilities internally, you may not, but make sure you've got that resourced correctly. And then your digitization process will be more successful.
And Susie, just as we wrap up here, is it fair to say that the Coinfors, Gallagher's, PJ Hegarty are really seeing those benefits and feel very confident about FlowForma moving into the future?
Oh, absolutely. I think there's more projects being thought about. People are going, oh, I'd like to do this. And now where it's not something where they're feeling it's being put upon them, they're now going, I want to do this. So they're getting involved in the journey.
So I think what you're saying there is that once you have FlowForma in your organization and different departments and stakeholders are engaging with it, all of a sudden new ideas come to mind.
Absolutely. And that drives innovation within the business, which is a part of growth.
Fantastic. And I think the only way to do that is to have FlowForma, right? So that's the key here. Okay, well, look, Susie, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. Fran, I know you've been waiting patiently in the wings, sir. I'd like to invite you back in.
Hi, everyone. So Dermot and Susie unfortunately had to run. So if you have any other questions, please do send them our way. And in the meantime, before we wrap up our time with FlowForma, I do have a poll that I'd like to share with all of you on their behalf. And so I hope that you'll be able to do this one. Is the poll already launched? I believe maybe you can already see it. So please do take a look at the poll and answer your questions. The poll is asking, would you be interested in any of the following next steps? And the responses are a selection of industry-specific resources to support your digitalization journey, a free trial of FlowForma's process automation tool, and a one-to-one process automation workshop to deep dive into the policies. Okay, you can't see the poll. All right, then. Let's see if I can fix that. Can you all see the poll now? You can let me know in the live chat. Again, the question is, okay, great. I'm glad we worked that out. I'm sorry, there was a little tech glitch, a couple of them here. So would you be interested in any of the following next steps? Again, your options are a selection of industry-specific resources to support your digitalization journey, a free trial of FlowForma's process automation tool, a one-to-one process automation workshop to deep dive into the possibilities of automation at your company. So please do take the time to answer the poll. I will actually inform all of you in the live chat too, in case some people are not actually hearing me. And we will take this moment to also let you know that you should connect with me, Dermot and Susie, on LinkedIn. You are welcome to send questions right now. Any questions we were unable to get to here, we will follow up with you on. And we hope you enjoyed this session. And we're gearing up for the next one. We'll just give you a little bit more time to participate in the poll. You can take the poll question now. I'll give you a few more minutes, as we do have a little time here. And please do send through your questions. I think one thing that I found very interesting and a theme of today's sessions has been really that this low code, no code technology can really simplify our lives and make things a lot easier at work at a time when people are feeling a lot of pressure. Those of you who have joined me for human resources conversations have mentioned about employee engagement. Low code and no code can really help bring the team together and engage the employees again. It gives them a lot of power. And as Susie and Dermot were talking about, it can very much simplify processes that used to take a long time. And Mehdi, that is a great question. We will make sure that you get an answer from the experts following today's webinar series. At this time, I'm going to end the poll and I will share the results momentarily. I'll give you all a few more minutes to send through some questions. As I was saying, another theme that has come up a lot has been about the integration of your previous platforms with new platforms and also leveraging AI. I hope you'll all stick around to hear us out for the last session, which will be coming up in just a moment. And I'm going to share that 43%, we actually have a tie here for the results of the poll. 43% have said a selection of industry-specific resources to support the digitalization journey, as well as a free trial of FlowForma's process automation tool. And I'm sure FlowForma will be in touch with you about that. 14% of you mentioned a one-to-one process automation workshop. I think that's something many people could benefit from. I'm going to stop sharing the results of the poll now and welcome all of you to share more questions and comments. And we'll take a little tiny pause to reflect on what we've been listening to before moving on to our next session.